Hey, what's up? So Pop Zero, and I'm here to kind of show a nade spam build with the Warlock. So first things first, let's go over the class. We're going to be on Dawnblade, and for our class ability, we're going to be using Phoenix Dive. Phoenix Dive got buffed this season, to where now it actually has a shorter cooldown, so you are able to spam it a lot more often. Alternatively, we're also using this as kind of a get out of jail free card where you can jump in the air, dive down, and get an instant burst of healing, or to heal your teammates that are right next to you. On top of that, if you land next to enemies, you also apply Scorch to them, which is going to be really useful here coming up. Your jump doesn't matter. I prefer Burst Glide. Now, for your melee, use Incinerator Stabs. For whatever reason, this build is kind of bugged whenever you use Celestial Fire. So sometimes you'll kill an enemy with Celestial Fire, and it doesn't actually proc the exotic piece that we're going to be using, which is going to be Sunbracers. I don't know why this is. I don't know what's causing this issue, but honestly, Incinerator Snaps works pretty much every time, no matter what. So use this one. It's, trust me, it's on a less cooldown as well, so you'll be able to use it a lot more often. And it actually works every time for whatever reason. So don't use Celestial Fire. On top of that, Incinerator Snap also kind of goes hand in hand with the fragments that we're going to be using. So not only are we getting it on a shorter cooldown, we're also getting Scorch. Now, no, whenever you do the Incinerator Snap, you don't actually need to kill them with the initial melee of Incinerator Snaps. You can actually Scorch somebody with the melee, and then if they die to the burn damage from the melee, that will still proc Sunbracers. So even though they may not outright die from using Incinerator Staff, you use it in a big group of enemies that applies Scorch to the targets, and then they'll end up exploding, and that will actually proc Sunbracers. Now for your grenade, obviously we're going to be using Solar Grenade. It's the best grenade for this build. It's the only one that actually works with our exotic, so just use Solar. Now for the aspects, we're going to be using Touch of Flame just to buff Solar Grenade to make sure that it has an even longer duration. And it will also implement the blob effect or lavas from the grenade, which will help kill things faster and also help apply Scorch. Now, you could go with Ignorance Dash here, but to be honest, Heat Rises is probably the best thing that you can use for this build. Lets you fire your weapons, use your melee, and also throw grenades while you're flying through the air. And if you hold your grenade button, you'll activate Heat Rises, which means you'll be able to stay in the air for much longer. And the bonus of this fragment, or I'm sorry, of this aspect, is whenever you're in air and you get a kill, you actually get melee energy back, which is very handy whenever it comes to the synergy of this build. Now for the fragments, you're probably already seen most of these fragments from other builds, so I'm just going to be very quick. You're going to want to use Ember of Resolve, so that way every time you get a kill with your grenade, it will just instantly heal you. I use Ember of, what is this? Empne. I can't read, so I'm not even going to try. But essentially, Solar Weapon or Ability Final Blows extend the duration of Restoration or Radiant. We're mainly using this for restoration. We're not really gonna be kind of using guns in this build. And then we got Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. This actually will pair very nicely when it comes to our build. Especially for Scorch, getting us our melee back. So anytime we kill a target with our grenade, they walk through our grenade, they walk out of the grenade, they die to the Scorch, and it just gives us our melee energy back, which is really nice. And it spawns a fire sprite, which we'll talk about later. And then the last fragment we're going to be using is Ember of Searing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. This goes hand in hand with our melee that applies Scorch to targets. So there's a lot of synergy with using your melee that gets your class energy back, which you can use for a heal, or you can use it to apply more Scorch, which will then also get us our grenade energy back. Or we'll kill them with the Scorch and we get a fire sprite. Now, for the artifact that we're going to be using, this is kind of important. We're going to be using the Solar Surge. Collecting a fire sprite gives you an armor charge. We will be utilizing armor charge in here. Now, alternatively, for weapons, you can also use volatile flow, where picking up an orb of power grants your void weapon volatile rounds. I didn't use it in the recording for this video, but honestly, using a funnel web with volatile flow while also using this build really helps you ad clear even faster whenever your melee and your grenade aren't up. You'll see a few times in this video that I didn't end up having my grenade or my melee or even my Phoenix dive up. So I'm forced to only use my gun, and having something like this, volatile flow, honestly would probably help me clear a lot faster. The other thing you would also kind of need is authorization mods for the grenades, and then for the solar mods. Anything else is kind of personal preference of what you want in this build. So the only two I recommend are solar, volatile flow, and solar surge. And if you're going to be using volatile flow, might as well pick up bricks from beyond. Defeating a powerful combatant with a void weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo. This is just great all around for team play. So for the build, the armor, we're going to start with the helmet. I'm using 3 ashes to assets just to make sure I can be able to spam my super to either save myself or save my teammates. Alternatively, you can actually remove one of these ashes to assets and do something like heavy ammo finder, or if you're using a volatile weapon, you can use, or a void weapon, you can use void siphon or powerful friends. There's a lot of things you can do with this build. One of the things I like to run is something like this, where I run heavy ammo finder with heavy ammo scout for my friends, and then I just run 1 assets to assets. But if you're playing alone, you know, I think it's better to spam a super. So that's all personal preference. Now for stun bracers, the 2 things that you're definitely going to be needing in this build, firepower. Your grenade final blows create an orb of power. Honestly, this is one of the things you need to run along with melee kickstart. You're going to be using orbs of power to help get your abilities back faster and to spam them a little bit more. And you're going to be creating so many orbs of power that honestly, it just makes sense. You're always going to have melee kickstart active at all times. Very rarely will you not. So having firepower with melee kickstart is very powerful. Now for the last mod in this section, bolstering detonation, grants class ability energy whenever you're damaging, whenever you cause damage with a grenade. Because you're using solar grenades, you're gonna get your class ability back very fast. One thing I do kind of recommend, if you don't want to run bolstering detonation, you can run something like impact deduction, which would also be really good, which is causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. You use incinerator snaps in a group of low level ads, and this will actually help you get your grenade energy back, which honestly is kind of not needed, but there are some times where you will end up using the snap and not kill anybody, and this will just helps make sure that you get your grenade back, even though you don't actually proc sun bracers. But yeah, that's what I recommend. I recommend bowling detonation, but you can also do something like momentum transfer, or if you have the class energy, you can use heavy handed. Now for the armor. There's a lot of things you can do here. Honestly, I recommend running 2 charged up mods just to increase the number of armor charges you're able to use to help get your incinerator snap back even faster. So I would just use 2 of these. For your boots, you're running 1 stacks on stacks. In invigoration and then recuperation. Honestly, because you're going to be generating so many orbs of power, you can actually remove stacks on stacks and do something like 2 invigorations for your melee energy and then 1 recuperation for your health. Because you're going to be generating so many orbs of power, you can actually always have orbs to always constantly get your melee energy back or to get your health regen back. Alternatively, depending on the weapon that you're using, you can also use the weapon surges because you're going to be using a lot of because you're going to be generating so many orbs of power that you're never really going to be lacking, I guess, in the amount of orbs you can you're never really going to be in a situation where you're never going to not have a weapon singe up at a time. Realistically, though, I like running stacks on stacks. Just makes it simple, makes it easier for me to spam my grenade just slightly faster. So I like to use stacks on stacks. Now, for your bond, honestly, I just recommend using outreach. 3 outreaches just makes the class so much simpler. If you're ever in a situation where you can't actually use your grenade or you can't use your snap and you're low on health, because you're going to be using Phoenix Dive and you're going to be able to spam it a little bit more, you can actually just dive, get your health back, and then get your melee back at the same time. And you can create a lot of great synergy here. Alternatively, too, this also goes hand in hand with saying causing damage with a melee deck reduces your grenade cooldown. So that's the build. Now, when it comes to your stat distribution, you definitely want 100 recovery. You want to try and get over 50 resilience. Now, I ended up only getting 48 in this build because a lot of this armor was meant for a different build, so I couldn't actually get the right stat distribution that I would want. But you would pretty much want at least 50 resilience, 100 recovery, around 50 to 60 discipline, and then as much strength as you can, preferably within 80 to 90. Obviously, with this build, I wasn't able to accomplish that, but even so, I was still able to spam all of my abilities very fast and very frequently, including my super. So you should have no problem using this build whatsoever. In fact, most of the gameplay that you're going to be watching, I don't even think I really use a gun unless I'm getting someone to half health, and then I use my melee ability to then kill them. So have fun with this build. I'll catch you next time where I will be doing a Titan solar nade spam build as well. Catch you next time.